everyone, this is Ms. Fazone, and today we're going to be talking about solving problems with percentages. I actually have two versions of this lesson. This lesson is going to involve proportions. My other lesson is going to be more an algebraic method. Because they're very different, and it's a different kind of understanding of using percents. So either way is good, it's really just what you prefer, which method. So proportions is today. Alright, so what is a percent? This was on the last lesson. Percent means per 100, an amount out of 100. And one way we can think about that is it's really a fraction. We're thinking about a percent as an amount out of 100. So like 55 over 100. We're really thinking of the fractional understanding of a percentage. Okay, so since percents are to the 100, sometimes we write them as fractions. So what is a fraction? A fraction is a part out of a whole. So we really want to think of, with a percent, what's the whole thing, the whole number being described here, and what's the piece of the number being described. So that's really something we're going to focus on. So, find 5% of 40. So, what is 5%, right? It's as a proportion. 5% is 5 per 100 equals. Now, what part is 40 the part or the whole? That's the question. So, 5% of 40. That's your whole. We have this we have 40 kids in a class, and we want 5% of them. We want this small percent, this little part of them. So that 40 is actually your whole. We want to find the part. And to do that, we make this proportion, and we're going to cross multiply. So 5 times 40 is 200 equals 100x. So we cross multiplied, multiply on our diagonals. This marker is dead. Set them equal, and then what do we do to solve for x? Divide by 100. X equals 2. So 5% of 40 is 2 students. So, again, like I just said, for these proportions, the way we set it up, a lot of teachers teach it like this. Is over of. In these word problems, it's really, really common to see the words of or is. Your is always your part. Your of is your whole. Just like in this last problem, notice of 40. The of is your whole. I was finding the percent of this big number is 2. So 2 was my part, 40 was my whole. So write this down. Percent over 100 equals is over of. I also like to look at it as percent over 100 is your part out of your whole for your fraction. And this really comes into play with more realistic word problems. You don't always see those words. Alright, so 8% of what number is 27? So 8%, 8 per 100, of what number? We're finding 8% of the whole, which we don't know, is 27, right? Is over of. We don't know our of, but our is 27. Now we can cross multiply. 8 times x is 8x equals 27 times 100 is 2700. Divide by 8. Let's see if I can do this in my brain. 8 equals 3, 24, 3 left over, 3 with a 6 left over, 7, 8, 7.5. 337.5. Maybe I should go to calculator. A lot of these are decimal. So this is that was my whole. 8% of this number is that small 27. What percent of 85 is 40? I think I put this on the next slide. Did I not? Yeah, okay. Let's go to the next one. What percent of 85 is 40? So think about this logically. What percent? We don't know our percent. So my x out of 100, some percent of 85, my whole, is my smaller part. Right? Some part of my whole is my part. So 40 is over of. Okay. Cross multiply. 85x equals 4 3 zeros. To solve that, divide by the coefficient of x. And x equals, I'm going to grab my calculator really quick. And that is 47.06. So that's my percentage. So think about it. 47% is just under half, right? It's just less than 50%. 40 is just less than half of 85, right? Half of 80 is a 40. So 40 is just under 50%. Just under 50%. It makes sense, it's logical. And you should try to work on that logic that's happening with these problems. All right, Paul. So we're gonna do a few more, I did one, now you do one. So pause the video and try it on your own. So 8% per 100 of some number is 35. Right? We find 8% of the whole equals your smaller number, your part. Cross multiply, 8x equals 3,500. Divide by 8. That's my calculator. 3,500 divided by 8 is 4 something. Divided by 8 is 437.5. That's it. Next one. 130% of 92 is what number? Now notice, that's more than 100%. So what does that tell us? That when we find a number bigger than 100% of 92, our answer, our part is actually going to be bigger, right? My guess is around, 120 or so. So we need to find 130% of 92. This is our whole, but our part is going to be bigger because we're increasing that number. So my percent over 100, and finding it of the whole is the part, but again, the part is going to be bigger. Cross multiply. 100x equals 130 times 92. 130 times 92 is 11,960. Divide by 100. X equals 119.6. Oh my goodness, I'm so smart. I said 120 and it's 119.6. Oh. Sometimes I just get proud of myself when I'm estimating, because I didn't actually know the answer. Alright, so that's this one. 6. Again, pause the video. I did one just like this for you. Try it on your own. What percent of 140 is 0.07? Think about if we're starting with our whole of 140 and our part is 0.7, our percentage is going to be tiny. That's a very small percent. So x over 100 is 140 is my whole, and we're finding 0.7 of that. So 140x equals 70. Divide by 140, yeah, 70. And we end up with 0.5 or a half. So 0.5%. It's 0.5%, so that's a small percentage. All right, so now we're going to jump into some of the harder word problems. So this is the kind where you kind of want to focus on the part over the whole. It makes it a little easier. A pair of sneakers cost $120 and are, I think it says 15. And are 15% off. How much will you pay for the sneakers? All right, so what's our percent? 15. So 15% out of 100. So is that 120 the part or the whole? Is that how much we're paying? How much we're saving? Or the total price? That's our total price, so 120 over x. Cross multiply, 100x equals, I want to say 1800, 15 times 120, yeah, 1800, divide by 100, x equals 18. So what does that number represent? Did we pay $18 for these sneakers? Does that make sense? 15% off. This represents the money off the sneakers. Money off the sneakers. So how do we figure out how much we will pay? We have to take that away from that 120. So our answer is that $120 minus that $18 savings is $102. So that's how much we spend. And then there's tax, of course, which I didn't take into consideration. All right, so these are two steps, and you have to pay attention to the context, what these numbers mean. So many students just go through the process, oh, I'm done. No, you're not done. Make sure you read the problem. All right, last one. You paid $41.99 for a PS2 game. I don't even know if PS2 is still popular. I'm not gonna lie. I know nothing about video games. If it was 30% off, what was the original price? If it was 30% off, what was the original price? So 30% off. So 30 out of 100 equals, so what's that $41.99 represent? Is that that's our part, right? We don't know the original price. So let's see what happens here. Cross multiply 30x equals $41.99. Divide by 30. $41.99 divided by 30 is $139.97. So around 140. Does that make sense? Does that number make sense? It doesn't. This is actually wrong. I did it wrong on purpose. Because the problem is, this number, 140, the way we're setting this up, 30% of the original price is not the total. It's the amount saved. So we don't know what this number is. So here's the trick. Instead, if it's 30% off, what percent did we pay? Instead of doing percent off, we're gonna put percent paid here, and it makes it much easier. So 30% off means we paid 70% of the price, okay? 30% off means we paid 70% of the cost. Okay? So instead of putting a 30 here, we're gonna put a 70. Because 70% of the original will be our new price. 70% of the original will be the price we paid. And it'll make more sense. Okay. So let's do this again. 70x equals 4199. Okay. 4199 divided by 70. And it came to, well, it came to about $60. 59.98, 99. 59.99. Does that make sense? It does. 30% off 60 is around 41. This makes sense. So this is tricky with some of these using the percentage. It was 30% of some number that we didn't know was the percent off. So these are a little trickier. Yeah, so this is, I think, the easiest way to do it. Think of it as what percent are we actually paying, and use that. And we could have done that in the previous problem also. Instead of subtracting, we could have done, instead of 15, we could have done 85 and found 85 of 120, and that would have been our answer. We would have gotten that 102. Okay. So these can be a little tricky, so take your time and really think logically about them. Right. Hope this was helpful. Have a great day.